This call is now being recorded.
So in the last class, we started the fourth module, that is key management, right? So in this key management, we already started to study the life cycle of a key. So as you know, in symmetric key cryptography or public key cryptography, key plays a very important role. With respect to symmetric key, a same key will be shared between two parties, right? Whereas in public key cryptography, the private key and public key are used for encryption and decryption. So it's very important to us to understand the life cycle of the key and how the keys are managed over the network, how it is established, how it is generated, where it is stored, how backup is taken for of each key, and once it is created, it has to be destroyed. So all these phases of a key throughout, the key has to go through all these phases in its lifetime. Okay, so we have already studied the first phase of key life cycle, that is key generation, right? So let me start from there. So all these topics are covered in the last class. The first method is, the different methods followed to generate key. That means the first phase of a key is key generation. Okay, and the methods or the mechanisms that are followed to generate symmetric key are different, and public key cryptography, for that particular cryptography, it is different. Okay, so in this chapter, we will see the direct key generation method. This is already completed in the last class. Key derivation, this is also completed in the last class. Today we'll see the key generation from components and public key pair generation. So these are the four different methods that you are supposed to study under key generation phase of a key life cycle. Okay, so in direct key generation, what happens? Random number generation method is followed to generate the keys with respect to symmetric key method. Okay, whereas in key derivation, see, initially a first key is, one key is generated, either it may be from following direct key generation. Okay, using that key, we will derive other keys which are required for the communication or to implement any algorithm. Okay, so these two methods we have already seen in the last, we have studied in the last class. So today we'll see the next two method, that is key generation from the components and public key pair generation. So let me directly go to this key generation components. Yeah. So as I said, in direct key generation and key derivation, so both the methods initially follows random key generation method. Okay, so here what happens? Only one entity will be having the full control of this key generation. So I'll repeat, the direct key generation method, or if you consider key derivation method, in both the methods, only one entity will be having full control of a particular key generation process. So what if that particular entity is compromised? Okay, so if that particular entity which takes the complete control of the key generation is compromised, then the whole crypto system will get compromised, right? So that's why a method is followed here to overcome such problems. So here the solution is that what we will do, we will distribute the key generation process among a group of entities in such a way that no members of the group individually will be having the control over the process, but collectively they do. So what this method says is that, so instead of giving a complete control to one entity, this control will be distributed to a set of entities. Okay, so all these entities will take part in generating the keys. Okay, So if one entity is compromised here, that will not affect the generation of key in this method. Why? Because the what responsibility is shared between a group of entities. So that this method we call it as a component form method, or you can say key generation from components. Okay. So let's consider a simple scenario here. One second. Let me take this. So consider a scenario where three entities are considered: Alice, Bob, and Charlie. Now assume that uh, they want to generate a component of 128 bits. That means they want to generate a key of 128 bits. So initially what they'll do, randomly generate a key. Okay, so we'll see that in detail in the next step. So first, you remember Alice, Bob, and Charlie are three entities who are involved in generating the key here. Okay, so initially I said all these three entities initially generate a key, right? So that is generated using any method of under direct key generation mechanism, the first method that we have studied in key generation. So all these three entities initially generate, what they'll do, they'll generate keys by following direct key generation mechanism, and those keys are represented using Ka, Kb, and Kc respectively. Okay, so once this is what created, next step is whatever the components formed from first step is transferred to a secure combiner. So this secure combiner is nothing but a hardware security model. In short, you can call it as a HSM. So whatever keys generated here in the first step are transferred to a secure combiner, that we call it as HSM, that is hardware security module. Okay, from this module, okay, that means from the secure combiner, we derive a key that is represented as K here from the separate components. So using these three components, a key will be derived that is represented with K. Okay, you can see here. One second. Okay, not able to see. Okay, see here. Here you can see by using Ka, Kb, and Kc performing XOR operation on these components, we have derived a key called K. So this key can be used for the communication in symmetric cryptography. Okay, the first step is what? Create a component that is with respect to each entity that are involved in this process. So this component can be created either following any one of the direct key generation mechanism. Okay, once the components are formed, that has to be transferred to the secure combiner, or you can call it as hardware security module. Okay, this hardware security module will derive the key from the separate components. So K is equal to Ka XOR Kb XOR Kc. So this is all about the key generation from components. So next method is public key pair generation. See, this method is specific to only public key cryptography. Okay, so here as for whatever we studied in symmetric key generation, public key pair generation often requires the random generations or random. One second, kindly hold on. Okay, so in that the keys are generated using random generations of numbers, and actually here the relevant standard should be followed to generate public key pairs. for private and the public key, you have to follow the separate methods, okay, or you will have to follow the what relevant standards, okay. So here, as I said, the whatever keys that are used in public key cryptography follows a specific format. Fine. And the sorry, in this I just missed. Yeah, the generation of key pair, that is, private key and the public key, the keys which are used in this public key cryptography may be slow and it is complex, because for each key generation a specific format is followed. Either it may be a private or the public key. For each method, we have to follow the specific format. That's why this key pair generation may be slow and complex. Here I have considered an example where let me consider this RSA algorithm, where the private key and the public key we are going to use it, right, to perform encryption and decryption. So this D key, the keys that is used for D and E should have a specific mathematical properties. Like here, private key should be in the form of co-prime, and the public key, that is E, should be, public key should be in the form of co-prime, and private key should follow the GCD calculation, right? So if that is the case, then if we choose an RSA modulus of 1024 bits, then there may be 2 power of 1024 candidates for E or D. Okay, so this has to be followed to generate such keys. So because of this, we may treat it as it's a complex process. Okay, that is all about public key pair generation. Next is key establishment. This is the second phase in key life cycle. So as you know, key establishment is nothing but the process of getting cryptographic keys to the location where they will be used. See, if two parties are involved in communication, okay, then for the encryption and for the purpose of decryption, whatever the keys are required, that should be established at the locations where the parties are involved in the communication. So that is nothing but the key establishment. Okay. So here, with respect to symmetric key, as you know, keys need to be shared by more than one party, right? So so the key establishment has to be performed in such a way that while sharing the keys, key should not be get compromised. So that consent should be there while establishing this key. Okay. So this phase of a key life cycle, there will be no, you need not to worry while establishing this key in different scenarios. Like the first one is the key does not, sorry, one second. See here, the key does not need to be shared. So if we need not to share the keys, that means if keys are publicly available, then we need not to be no need to provide much secure for such keys. And next one is keys does not need to be secret. See, as I said, public key need not to be secret, right? So in such case, key establishment is easy. And the third one is the key can be established in a controlled environment. See, in some cryptographic applications, it is possible to establish all the required keys within a controlled environment before the devices containing the keys are deployed. So such procedure or such method is called as key pre-distribution. So before deploying keys into the devices where it will be used, before that the keys are established or placed within a controlled environment. Such process is called as key pre-distribution. So these are the three scenarios where we need not to take much secure mechanism to establish the keys. But what happens, excuse me, with respect to key establishment, a particular mechanism is used that it is given here as key hierarchies. That means it is one of the most widely used technique for managing symmetric keys. Do remember, this key hierarchy method is used for managing symmetric keys. So here, the symmetric key consists of ranking of keys. That is one property of this key hierarchy method. And keys at one level are used to encrypt keys at the level beneath. We'll see that by considering an example in the next slide. So the advantage of this key hierarchy is that there are two advantages. One is secure distribution and storage. So if this hierarchy is method, the distribution of keys and storing of such keys is easier, and it also facilitates scalable key change. It helps in scale up the key change facility. Okay, that's why most commonly used key method is key hierarchy for smaller network. Fine. So okay, let me enter all the details. So consider this example where you can see a simple key hierarchy mechanism where three level is followed. Here you can see the first level is master key, next level is key encrypting keys, and third level is data keys. And again, I'm telling this key hierarchy helps in managing symmetric keys. Okay, to remember symmetric keys. So with respect to that, this is the simple example given in your syllabus where three levels are followed: master key level, key encrypting keys, and the last level is data keys. And do remember, the one level of keys are used to encrypt the next level of keys. So here master keys are used to encrypt key encrypting keys, and these keys are used to encrypt the data keys. Okay, so that is specified in this slide. So here under master key, the function is that these are the top level keys that require careful management. So this master keys, that is a top level key, as you can see in the picture, they are used to encrypt key encrypting keys. As I said, the master keys are used to encrypt key encrypting keys. Since this key management of master keys are very expensive and they will be having long lifetimes. Okay, so that is one characteristic of this master key. The next level key, as I said, it is key encrypting key. Here what happens, these keys, key encrypting keys, are distributed and stored in encrypted form. See, as I said, these keys are encrypted using master keys, right? So these are the distributed and stored in encrypted form using master keys, and they are only used to encrypt the data keys. Again, whatever the keys that are generated here after encrypting, those keys are used to encrypt this data key. Okay, and next, this key encrypting keys will have shorter lifetime compared to this master keys. Fine. And next level, as I said, the last level keys are data keys. Here, these keys are also distributed and stored in encrypted form using key encrypting keys. And these keys are used in most of the computations that are involved in the cryptography. So do remember, these keys, data keys, are used in most of the cryptographic computations. So even this key will be having short lifetime. And this data keys is also known as session keys. Do remember, this data keys are also known as session keys. So that is all about the simple key hierarchy method example. So here As I said in the previous, in this example, the master keys, the top level keys need to be securely managed, right? Because this key is followed to encrypt this level, and this level keys are used to encrypt this level, right? So if this master key get compromised, the other level keys will also get compromised, right? Then there is no point of using such key hierarchy method. So it is very important to have a secure mechanism to store this master key in a in a proper storage place where a proper security should be provided. So in such case, so in such scenarios, the master keys are stored in, here it is there. So it is stored in hardware security modules to so that the top level keys should not get compromised. That's why those keys are stored in HSM. Fine. Next, these master keys are generated, established, and backed up in component form. The method which we studied in the previous slide. Okay. So here there is one, scenario where if we need to use master key which needs to be shared between two different HSM. That means hardware security model. The same master key, if that need to be shared between two different HSM, then what is the solution for that? The solution is that generate the same master key from components separately on each HSM. So that is HSM is a hardware security model. So as I said, master keys need to be secured, right? It should be stored and it should be securely managed. That's why these master keys are placed in HSM. So that is the safe place where you can store it. Here, what if the master keys need to be shared between two different HSM? So in that case, generate the same master key by using the component form key generation separately on each HSM. That is one solution. Or the alternative is that run, one second. An alternative solution is that run a key agreement protocol between the two HSM in order to establish a shared master key. Okay, these are the two solutions if a master key need to be shared between two HSM, that is hardware security modules. Next, is scalable key hierarchies. See, whatever the key hierarchy, the simple key hierarchy started in the previous slide, that works fine for the simple network, but it becomes unmanageable for the large networks. So let me consider this example. One second. Yeah. Consider there is a simple two-level hierarchy. Say there is simple two-level hierarchy. One is master key and another one is data key hierarchy. So consider there are only two levels. Okay. If we have a network, of n users, consider there is a network which consists of n users, then possible pair of users, consider communication happens between two entities or two users, right? So in for this network, the number of possible pairs of user is given by this 1 divided by 2 into n minus 1. So that means what? If there are 100 users using in this network, small network, where this key hierarchy is followed, then the possible pair of users will be 4950. Okay, and this, so if 4950 pairs of users will be there for this network, then we have to establish 4950 separate master keys among the 100 HSM in the network. See, for each user, uh, one hardware security model is maintained. Okay, and as I said, the what master keys are placed in HSM, right? So if there are 100 users for this network, then 4950 separate master keys should be generated for these many pairs of users, right? So for the same master, I mean, we have to generate uh, what same master key for all these users of this network. So that is waste of time, and also keys may get compromised, right? So that's why what we are following here is the concept of KC, that is key center. We'll see that in the slide. Yeah. So whatever the problem that I explained in the previous screen, so to overcome that problem, KC is followed, that is key center. See, the idea is that here each user in the network, so whatever user that are present in the network or who is using the network, shares a key with the KC. That means user will be sharing a key with key center, which acts as a go between any time any pair of user requires a shared key. So at any point of time, the user can get the key from the key center. Okay. If this method is used, we can reduce the need for 4950 master keys into 100 master keys. So each one shared between a specific user and the key center. So with respect to previous method, where two-level key hierarchy is followed there, if 100 users are present, then 4950 possible pair of users will be there. So for each user, one master key has to be generated, right? So this will be waste of money because the same master key will be generated for all the users. So that's why it's a waste of time and waste of resource as well. That's why to overcome such problem, a trusted third party is followed, that is key center, where each user will be shared a key with the key center. So whenever he need a key, then he can get it from the key center, and with it will be a secure method as well. Okay, so there are two key distribution approach to acquire shared keys from a, so each user, if a user need to get a shared key from the key center, then two methods are followed. One is, okay, that I have discussed in the, yeah, two approaches are followed. One is key translation and another one is key dispatch. Okay, so for this, a simple scenario is given, like how these two approaches are implemented. So here, Alice considered the scenario where Alice wishes to establish a shared key, shared data key K with the Bob. So do you remember? She wants to establish a shared data key, okay, with the Bob. And with that, assume that both Alice and Bob have respectively established master keys. See, master keys will come at the first level, data key will come at the last level in the key hierarchy, where only two levels are followed, right? So here she will share a data key with Bob, and Alice and Bob will respectively establish master keys, that is KAC and KBC with the KC, that is key center. And with this, as I said, two-level key hierarchy is employed for this scenario. And now we'll see how the keys are shared by following key translation and key dispatch. The first one is key translation. See, consider this diagram. It is self-explanatory actually. See here, Alice generates a data key. Alice generates a data key, encrypts it using KAC. This is what KAC is, a master key that is shared with the key center, right? So Alice generates a data key K, okay, encrypts it using KAC. So now it becomes EKAC of K, okay, sends this key to key center. See, this is key center. In next step, what happens? The KC, that is key center, decrypts the encrypted K. So it decrypts the encrypted K using KAC. Okay, re-encrypts using KBC and then send this to Bob. So this is how the keys will be shared between KC and the parties involved in the communication. Okay, you can see that here K is generated and Alice will encrypt it using KAC and send it to KC, right? KC what will do? It will decrypt it using, it will re-encrypts. First it will decrypts and then re-encrypts using KBC and sends it to Bob. See here you can see EKBC of K. Now what Bob will do? Bob will decrypts the encrypted K using KBC. So that is how the keys are distributed between KC and the users. This is key translation. Next method is key dispatch. In this method, again, Alice and Bob are involved in the communication, as I explained in the scenario in the previous slide. Okay, here, first action starts at KC. Here, the KC generates a data key. That is, key center generates a data key K, encrypts it. What it will do? It will encrypt one copy of it using KAC. See, this K is encrypted using KAC, okay, and another copy of it using KBC. The same data key is encrypted using KAC as well as another copy by using KBC. Okay, now, and it will be sent to the Alice first. What Alice will do? Alice will decrypt it, the first copy, that is this one, the first copy using KAC, and sends the other copy to Bob. The same, this one, this part, this she will decrypt it and the other copy she will send it to Bob. So here what Bob will do? He will decrypt it, I mean the second copy. He will decrypt it using this KBC. So in this way, the keys are shared from key center to the user involved in the network. So yeah, that's all in this class. And one more point is that the real difference between these two, that is key dispatch and key translation, is that who generates the data key. So the complete process depends on the entity who generates the data key. In the key translation, Alice will generate the data key, whereas in key dispatch, the key center will generate the data key. So from here, the action starts in this method, whereas here in key translation, action starts from this point. Okay. So that's all in this class. If you have any doubts, let me know.